Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's installment of Dads on Wrestling. I am the Renegade of Wrestling, J.J. Williams.
And I am Jeff Meacham.
Actually, someone pointed out to me online, you are no gimmicks needed, Jeff Meacham. You were doing that for a minute, and then you dropped the shtick for some reason. I guess people want you to bring it back. You are no gimmicks needed, Jeff Meacham, and yes, that is why I wore that shirt last
I was about to say, you're trying to throw me the hint at the Chris Candido shirt? You're trying to throw me the hint and I didn't catch it? Okay,
I was going to mention it last week, but we got so caught up in the actual, topical stuff that I...
Because we actually did something topical for once in a long time, we're actually doing that. So.
But now we're going back to a different topic.
Oh, okay.
Today we're going to talk about managers.
Like Mike Kilsha?
No.
No? Okay.
Like Morty Lipschitz.
So what about lawyers?
No. Managers.
He's a lawyer.
He's also one of the managers in the Family Stone.
That's Stu Stone was the manager of the Family Stone.
Anyways.
Ow.
Ow!
Ow! Give me the whatever we were going to do.
Give me the pink lemonade.
Yeah, that's right. Pink lemonade, baby. Lemonade is pink. The lemonade is pink. Okay. Oh.
So we're here to talk about managers and some of the best managers in wrestling.
Yes.
And who knows? Maybe this episode will turn into a top 10 in RSI at some point. You never quite know.
It depends, because the top 10 thing on RSI has to be a topical thing. Otherwise, we get a little lost in the shuffle. So,
Yeah.
But
you never can tell, though. Anything is possible in pro wrestling.
This is very true. But when you talk about wrestling managers, you have to talk about the guy at the top of the list, in my opinion. Former guest of the year on one of my other shows, on my other channel, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
The Weasel, no doubt.
Yes.
He is one of the greatest managers of all time.
Yes. The Heenan family
led
Andre to the ring at WrestleMania 3, the biggest match. Truly one of the biggest matches in sports entertainment history. Not this freaking Rock Cena garbage.
Or Rock Hogan.
Rock Hogan was actually one of the better ones that actually was the icon versus icon type match. This whole thing of Rock, the biggest match in sports entertainment history, the Rock versus Cena. No! It's not.
What they should be doing is building it as the biggest match since Rock Hogan.
Seriously, because it is. It definitely is.
We're getting away from the topic.
We are, as usual.
Bobby the Brain Heenan is definitely a great in the business.
Yes.
I got to meet him the same day you gave him his award, actually. We just didn't know each other then.
It was pretty cool. Got to meet
it's a
Bobby.
Small world after all.
It is indeed. And Bobby was and is, to date, my favorite guest, except for Rob. Rob Van Dam. He could do no wrong as far as comedic timing and managerial skills outside the ring and just his wit. Arn Anderson said he could be a stand-up comedian. His wit was surpassed by no other. And all it took was one look, weasel chant, and it was on like Donkey Kong.
That's
and he's amazing. And it is a crying shame. It is a robbery of nature that his true voice and his status as still able to go was taken from us. It sucks.
It's interesting that you mentioned Arn Anderson, though, because the first person I was gonna mention is to be inducted in the Hall of Fame this year along with the Horsemen, and that is J.J. Dillon.
Very true. JJ, people either give JJ credit or they don't
give him enough.
Yeah, they don't. I forget which book I was reading. It's one of the books that I brought down with me from my parents' house, and that people give JJ far too much credit. It's like no. JJ was awesome.
I don't think J.J. Dillon gets enough credit. No. I really don't, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he went by JJ and I'm JJ. It's got nothing to do with that. But in the grand scheme of things, I think J.J. Dillon really was the foundation that helped hold the Horsemen together. Yeah, you had Flair. Yeah, you had Arn and Tully and Ole or Barry, depending on which lineup you're talking about. But I really think that Dillon was that anchor that they needed.
On the Horsemen DVD itself, I forget which one, I think Arn did, said JJ was a manager, and the truth is that he kept those guys
in
line, and even when Arn and Tully left, JJ was still there for a minute, and then once he left, there was no Horsemen.
Yeah.
It was the Yama whatever corporation, and under Hiro Matsuda, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the same. They tried so hard to keep the Horsemen going. Kendall, when they might have joined, they were gonna. It was a mess without JJ. And even every incarnation of the Horsemen since then has not had a real good, honest, like legit manager type role. You had Arn doing it in '99 when he was hurt, and they had the other 3 Horsemen as workers. You had Ole there for a cup of coffee in 1990 and 91, but JJ was the manager of the Horsemen.
Yeah.
And without him, there was no real managerial role in the Horsemen stable. And he was awesome.
Agree.
I mentioned the Heenan family. Another family was the first family, or the Hart Foundation.
Okay.
Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart, Jesus Christ, it's who's who that he's managed to the ring.
Another WWE Hall of Famer.
Right.
A guy that we've met several times, because if there's something going on in WWE and it's not a televised event, if it's some sort of beach party or some sort of thing, Jimmy's there. Usually. Or if you're going to a bookstore to meet Hulk Hogan and there's nobody else to go except Hulk Hogan, Jimmy will come with him too.
Or Wrestle Reunion, which we haven't been able to go to.
I know.
You know, he was actually a free guest.
I know.
At Wrestle Reunion. He's like the Wrestle Reunion ambassador who just kind of mingles and BS's with everybody for free.
Did you see the NW Hollywood picture from that Wrestle Reunion? Did you see that picture? Like the whole cast and crew of Hollywood with Jimmy Hart in 2 different pictures, and then later on with superstar Billy Graham too. I was like, you sons of bitches.
Right.
I was so mad at NW Hollywood in general. I was like, no.
It happens.
It happens. But we will be there next year, hopefully with our own booth.
And since you mentioned NWA Hollywood,
aha,
you know, Percy Pringle.
Percy Pringle III,
a.k.a. Paul Bearer.
Yes.
Gotta give love to Paul.
Gotta give love to Percy. You know,
Pringle Dynasty.
Pringle Dynasty. Paul. I mean, Pringle Dynasty alone, you had Rick Rude, you had Steve Austin, you had so many people in world class in USWA, and then you go in WWF, The Undertaker, Kane, Mankind, Vader, you know, just those 4 guys alone, you know, 3 surefire Hall of Famers. Vader, hopefully he'll be in the Hall of Fame too. He should be.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And then now back doing his thing in NWA Hollywood, you know, you've got him with Shawn Ricker.
You had him with both Ricker and Brian Cage of WWE Developmental for a Cup of Coffee. You know, you've
FCW Tag Team Champion Brian Cage.
Yes, true. You've got Pringle sometimes here and there manages Adam Pearce, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, although we're not supposed to know that in NWA Hollywood. We're not supposed to know that.
Give him.
That's right. I already did that once a couple weeks ago. Percy Pringle Paul Bearer is just an amazing manager.
He's a true gentleman in the business.
Oh God, yes.
If you catch him at the right moment, he will not shut up once you get him talking.
Oh no. Very true. And he takes a great picture, and even made JJ laugh on camera.
That's right.
That was great. I still have a picture with him to this date. Don't have one yet.
I
got a video promo for him from the other show I used to do, and the camera just sucked. It wasn't anybody's fault. Just it was the older camera we used to use, and just it crapped out.
Yeah,
whatever. And that was what it was. Had that, and then you go from Percy Pringle, Jimmy Hart, Bobby Heenan, J.J. Dillon. You've got those 4. There's so many managers, and you know when you talk about managers, just talked about valets and female managers.
Okay.
You got Sunny, Tammy Sitch.
I was gonna get to Sunny.
I'm gonna let you have Sunny because that's your guardian angel. That's your girl.
I'm not gonna get into the whole story because I don't think the people out there need to know it. But you know, Sammy is by far the original diva.
Oh yeah.
Sweetheart of a woman.
Yes.
And the manager of 3 consecutive tag team champions,
which has never been done in history ever. You need to find a picture of the Godwins with the tag belts because both our histories have me with the Godwins with no belts, and yours is the '97 picture of the heel Godwins.
Yeah.
We need to make that happen somehow.
We should be able to screen cap it somewhere, I'm sure.
Well, I know that I don't know if it was a TV event that they won it at. I know it was TV. They lost it at me. I don't know if it was one they won it at. But in any event, you've got her, another Lita, yes, Trish. You know, Lita and Trish both. Those two were parallel in their managerial and their wrestling careers. They both came up as managers of, well, let's be honest, mid or low card entities, SA Rios and TNA.
Yeah.
You got those two, and then they both moved up in the world to wrestlers, and Trish ended up with Val Venus and with Mr. McMahon in that storyline. Lita ended up with the Hardy Boys for way long, and then with Edge in the main event spot, and then they both wrestled their butts off, and they were awesome. They were two of the few that successfully transitioned from manager valet to wrestler. It was great. A guy that there's a guy that I haven't mentioned yet. I don't know why I haven't mentioned him yet. He's one of the greatest managers, one of the greatest minds, period, in the history of this business, and doesn't get enough credit because of Vince McMahon and WWE and TNA both, trying to keep him hush hush. It's Jim Cornette.
Good one.
Jim Cornette is the current booker in Ring of Honor, or not Ring of Honor. Where is he at?
Isn't he still doing OVW?
He's back at OVW now because OVW, ironically enough, is the feed system for TNA. Ironically enough, but Cornette's there again. But the Midnight Express, Yokozuna, Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Big Bubba Rogers. Cornette. And Cornette could talk a blue streak and not get tired. I'm tired now as much as I've talked in this show. And Cornette could go 20 miles an hour faster than me in this show and still...
There's a shoot video on YouTube from Cornette from 2000 that runs over 4 hours. You want to talk about a guy that can't shut up.
Yeah, seriously.
Somebody else I want to mention, you kind of touched on one of his charges, I guess you could call it, a minute ago, and that's Paul Heyman, the Dangerous Alliance.
Oh my goodness!
Talked about Steve Austin, and that reminded me of the picture I have for my title history of Heyman and Austin.
Yes, from Austin's book. Matter of fact, I think that's one is. You've got Austin, you've got Rick Rude, you've got Medusa, you've got Larry Zbyszko, Arn Anderson. So many guys in that stable. Just that they were the stable in WCW 92. They feuded with everybody, including the guy Sting. When Ric Flair was not in WCW, it was Dangerous Alliance versus the rest of the company, and they anchored that company for well over a year in the absence of Ric Flair.
A couple of old-time managers come to mind. Captain Lou Albano,
Hall of Famer, yes sir.
And the Hollywood Fashion Plate.
Yes,
Freddie Blassie.
Freddie Blassie. Freddie got started out here as a wrestler.
Yes.
And, made his name more than well known as a wrestler and a manager, both.
One of the most hated men in the sport.
And also led a little-known 6'8", 300-pound blonde guy from Tampa named Hulk Hogan into his WWF debut in Madison Square Garden in 1979 against one of our favorites, Ted DiBiase.
There you go.
So you had Blassie managed Hogan in his early days. Before anybody knew about Hogan and Andre at WrestleMania 3, people were watching Hogan and Andre in 1980 with Blassie at ringside at Shea Stadium with thousands upon thousands of people.
He had Blassie with the Sheik and Volkov.
Sheik and Volkov, World Tag Team, with the Sheik as WWF champion, his first ever world champion. Freddie Blassie, if he had not got... seriously, Freddie Blassie just did so much in his career as a wrestler manager that his body could not keep up with his mind and his spirit. Because, we all get old. And Freddie just was getting too old for the road.
Yeah.
And even still, when he made appearances, it was awesome. He told Devon to get the tables the last time we ever saw him.
I remember that like it was yesterday.
And that speech he gave at...
Invasion.
Before Invasion. When he told the WWE
guys
to get out of his wheelchair and said to rise up. I was sitting there watching Home on Raw going... This is after high school, so I couldn't get grounded for my grades anymore. I was actually watching wrestling again.
There you go.
And just amazing. It inspired Stone Cold to break that cue stick and run back and start. The old Stone Cold came back, or so we thought. Just Freddie is an inspiration, always was. I read his book. His book was amazing.
And then back to Captain Lou.
Captain Lou.
Can you really name a prominent tag team in those early WWF days that he didn't lead to the goals?
If it was a heel team, it was Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah, pretty much.
The first ever team, the World Tag Team Champions, Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah.
Gotch and Tyler. Not Frank Gotch. He was long gone. Carl Gotch. But the Wild Samoans. The Head Shrinkers later on in the 90s. The Samoans kids. Just so many great teams. So many great. I just had it. Son of a. Ivan Koloff.
Okay.
Captain Lou Albano led Ivan Koloff to the defeat of Bruno Samar freaking Tino after 8 years as champion. Nobody can say that. No. Captain Lou Albano led to the demise of Bruno Sammartino's first world title reign.
Yeah.
That's bragging rights right.
Yeah,
seriously, got to get bragging rights right there alone.
Yeah.
And then to have the tag team championships, I think it's either 14 or 18, and 3 singles wrestlers all at the championships, like bang, 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 right away. He managed, the Intercontinental Champion at one point. He managed the World Champion, managed the Tag Team Champions. Captain Lou definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame, and he was in early. He was in the Hall of Fame before the DVDs started coming out.
Before it became the thing to do.
The thing to do after WrestleMania. Yeah, before WrestleMania. Yeah, that's 96, I believe. They need to release those DVDs, dang it.
That would be awesome.
They were really low-key ceremonies. They weren't like the big productions they are now, but it'd still be cool to have those.
Yeah, for those historians like us.
That way we have something to do the first 3 days of the WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And just make poor Jade go, no!
Like, it's bad enough what you're doing to me as it is. Don't give me the really boring stuff.
Although, to be fair, those ceremonies were before either King of the Ring or Survivor Series those years. Sure. But we'll still watch them.
Exactly.
Because we don't have anything to do between now and WrestleMania. We really don't. Yeah. So Captain Lou, there's so many managers out there that, can go on a list of all-time greatest managers. If you go to places like, WCW, you talk about J.J. Dillon, you talk about Paul Heyman, Jim Cornette, what about in TNA? What about, people like Jim Mitchell?
Okay.
James Mitchell, the Sinister Minister, ECW, WCW, TNA, those guys were all led by a creepy guy dressed in red with horns almost on his mustache and beard.
And his
eyelashes. Yes. Jim Mitchell is a creepy dude. Another guy that, again, I mentioned him as a wrestler, but didn't mention him as a manager, the leader of the $1 Million Corporation, Ted DiBiase.
You've just been talking a lot about Ted lately.
Ted really, really, really got to me at that speech thing.
Okay.
And I fully intend to make contact with him about other things. I've been talking about Twitter and making a contact that'll change my life. It's really about something that's going on with me. Anyway.
What about some indie managers? What about like Larry Sweeney?
I've not seen Larry's work. I'd like to, because I'm sure you have on Ring of Honor DVDs that you have here, but I have not seen Larry on Ring of Honor DVDs. I haven't seen Larry, period. So.
What about Jade Chung?
Jade Chung was a great valet for her time. She didn't get near enough time in the business, unfortunately, because Super Dragon Dunn killed her.
Not literally.
Not literally.
We know you probably don't know who we're talking about. He didn't really kill her.
Yeah. Super Dragon gave her a psycho driver in the middle of a guerrilla ring, and she got carried out. And that was the last time we saw her. Period. Indie. Oh God, who would I put at the top? Shoot. There's so many. There's just so many managers, period. Really.
One just came to my head, and I know we're going to catch tons of crap if we don't put this one out.
Okay.
Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's really bad we didn't remember that. And Sherry, too. Both of them.
It's sad because I started thinking about Val impersonating Elizabeth in that storyline with Lethal.
Yes.
I was like, how can I go there without actually saying
Elizabeth,
real Elizabeth?
Yeah, because Val, Val was great in that storyline, but she is way better served as her ring announcer role or her backstage interviewer role, her host of the other shows. Yeah, as far as a person named Elizabeth...
Hashtag not Jade Hogan approved.
Yeah, no. Definitely not. Yeah, no. Just, no.
Joey Ryan super kicking her in the face. Chris Masters putting the master lock on her. Hashtag Jade Hogan approved.
Yeah. A guy that, you know, gets a lot of flack here in Southern California, but he was manager of several champions at one point. C. Edward Vanderpyle.
Okay.
Managed both Adam Pearce and the Real American Heroes at one point,
Yeah.
which were the tag team champions and the world champion of the NWA. Yeah. You know, people will crap on C. Edward Vanderpyle for his choices later on in his career, but
we won't get into those because that's not our business.
Exactly. But he was a very effective, very swarmy, just sneaky, just manager. Just, you know, just great heel manager. You know, another guy that has been a very controversial name in Southern California, Gary Yap. When he is at ringside managing, he's nuts. And he's very heel. He's very... Yeah, almost evil, I dare say. He's pretty crazy.
Okay.
You know, another manager that doesn't get mentioned a whole lot, and I'm gonna, you know, put this guy over at the expense of probably getting major flack for it, is Jeff Meacham. You know, Jeff, you know, when he was brought into Epic War to manage...
I do the gratuitous stats walk off right here, but there's not really where I can go.
I was brought in to manage High Society, and I got so much flack, and yet I got so much praise from my peers and from the guys I was managing and the guys I was managing against. I had so much fun doing that. I'm not the greatest manager of all time, nor would I ever claim to be. I just did that just to mess with his head more than anything else. But
on that note, now that we've inflated Jeff's already overly inflated ego even bigger, we're going to wrap up this episode of Dad's on Wrestling.
Yes.
Who do you think are some of the greatest managers?
Who did we forget? Because we're going off the cuff of our pants here. We're just kind of
I know we're going to get a bunch of, dude, how could you forget?
Fill in the blank here. Yeah.
It happens.
It does.
Well, do you see a script in front of us? I've turned the camera around so you can see there's no teleprompter, but you know, we're going off the cuff like Jack said.
We're in our apartment, we're on the television studio. There's no teleprompter. We can't afford a freaking teleprompter.
We barely could afford a freaking tripod.
I know, right? That was a gift.
But we got one.
We got a tripod. Woo!
So, for this week's installment of Dad's on Wrestling, he is Jeff Meacham.
He is JJ Williams, the Renegade of Wrestling.
We'll see you next time.